Intro. That day, I saw hell with my own eyes. I was checking the footage from the hidden camera I had secretly installed. And I threw up right there on the floor. On the screen, the sweet, angelic neighbor from next door was gripping my 5-year-old daughter by the hair. She was forcing some black liquid down her throat.
Swallow it, you little brat. Your mommy's gonna lose her mind soon and get locked up. Then I'll be your new mommy. Won't that be nice?
Emma couldn't even cry. She just trembled, her whole body shaking. But what came next was even worse. My mother-in-law walked into the kitchen, and she asked with a smile,
"Linda, when can we send that daughter-in-law to the psych ward? Don't forget we split the insurance money 50-50.
That night, I made a decision. I was going to destroy them. And on my mother-in-law's 70th birthday party, in front of 100 guests. I played that video on the big screen. I grabbed the microphone and said, "Happy birthday, Mother. I hope you like your gift. I made it special so you and your precious neighbor can go to hell together." The police stormed in, and both of them were dragged away in handcuffs. This is the story of how I crawled out of hell. 1. The gift from heaven. I was 36 years old. My husband Kevin and I were both working full-time, raising our 5-year-old daughter Emma while barely keeping our heads above water. Every morning I woke up at 6, got Emma ready, dropped her off at kindergarten, worked all day, picked her up, made dinner, and collapsed into bed. That was my life on repeat. Kevin always said he was too busy with work to help with the kids. My mother-in-law, Barbara, claimed to love her granddaughter, but somehow expected me to handle all the housework after a full day at the office. I was exhausted body and soul. Then Linda moved in next door. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon. I was walking back from the grocery store with Emma in my arms, both of us getting soaked because I had forgotten the umbrella. Emma was fussing, and I was rushing to get home. That's when someone stepped out of the house next door, holding an umbrella. That was Linda, a woman in her mid-50s, elegant and poised. She ran over and held the umbrella over us, walking us all the way to our front door. Before I could go inside, she told me to wait. She came back with warm tea, towels, homemade cookies, and a jar of her own strawberry preserves. I was so touched. Here was someone who had just moved in, going out of her way to help a complete stranger. In our neighborhood, people barely nodded at each other. Linda's home always smelled of lavender candles. Classical music played softly in the background, and there were always elegant pastries on her coffee table. It felt like walking into a spa. Linda told me she had a sad past. She had lost her daughter to illness years ago. After that, her marriage fell apart, and she had been living alone ever since. I understood why she was so fond of Emma. My daughter must have reminded her of the child she lost. She helped me whenever I needed it. When I had to work late, she picked Emma up from kindergarten. When I caught the flu, she brought over homemade soup. She became my lifeline. Even Barbara adored her. My mother-in-law, who never had a kind word for me, couldn't stop praising Linda. Kevin felt the same way. He barely touched the food I made, but he raved about Linda's cooking. It was perfect. At least, that's what I believed. I should have known. Nothing that good comes without a price. 2. Shadows creeping in. The changes came slowly, so slowly I almost missed them. About 3 months after Linda moved in, Emma started acting strange. My bright, cheerful little girl began staring into space for long stretches. She stopped talking as much. She barely touched her food. At first, I thought it was just a phase. Kids go through things. Even when her kindergarten teacher mentioned that Emma seemed withdrawn, I brushed it off. But things got worse. Emma started having nightmares. She would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. No matter how long I held her, she couldn't calm down. When I asked her what she dreamed about, she said in a trembling voice that the lady next door kept trying to take her somewhere. Somewhere dark. Somewhere scary. I told myself it was just a bad dream. Emma loved Linda. There was no reason to be afraid of her. Then, a few days later, I found something in Emma's backpack. Candy wrapped in plain black paper. No label, no brand name. When I opened it, a sharp, chemical smell hit me. It wasn't sugar or fruit flavoring. It smelled like medicine. My stomach dropped. I asked Emma who gave it to her. She looked down and whispered that Linda had given it to her. Linda said it would make her smarter and help her grow taller. But she also told Emma never to tell Mommy. My blood ran cold. If it was really something good, why would she need to keep it a secret? I went straight to Linda's house and confronted her. She didn't even flinch. She smiled and said it was just an expensive imported supplement. She said Emma had been looking tired lately, so she thought she'd help out. Then she turned it around on me, asking why I was overreacting. That night, I told Kevin what happened. He shut me down. He said I was being paranoid. He asked why Linda would ever do anything to hurt our daughter. He said I was probably just stressed from work and seeing things that weren't there. The next day, Barbara came over and screamed at me. She said I had insulted a wonderful woman who was only trying to help. She told me she had gone to Linda's house herself to apologize on my behalf. No one believed me. 3. The Noose Tightens. Emma's condition kept getting worse. She would drop her spoon mid-meal, her hands shaking. She couldn't remember the stories in her favorite picture books. Sometimes she mumbled things that made no sense. I took her to every doctor. I could find pediatricians, neurologists, psychiatrists. They ran tests but couldn't find a clear cause. One doctor mentioned it could be extreme stress, or possibly exposure to some unknown substance affecting her nervous system. I took a leave of absence from work. I told everyone I was going to take care of Emma myself. No more leaving her with anyone else. Barbara was furious. She demanded to know why I wasn't out earning money. She said she and Linda would watch Emma, and I should get back to work. I refused. Her expression turned ice cold. There was something in her eyes, not just anger, but panic. Like something had gone wrong with the plan. From that point on, Barbara and Linda became inseparable. They met every day, went on walks together, had coffee at each other's houses. They acted like mother and daughter. Linda now had the code to our front door. She would walk in whenever she wanted, even when I was home. Like it was her own house. One day, Linda brought over a dark brown liquid in a bowl. She said Barbara had made it herself, an herbal tonic. She told me to give it to Emma. The moment Emma saw it, she turned pale and hid behind me. She said she didn't want to drink it. She said every time she did, her head hurt and she couldn't stay awake. I demanded to know what was in it. Barbara slapped me across the face. She asked how I dared question her. She said I didn't deserve to be part of this family. She told Kevin to throw me out. Kevin just stood there, staring at the floor. His own wife had been slapped in front of him, and he did nothing. When he finally looked up, he looked at me like I was crazy. He told me to see a doctor. He said Linda and Barbara were only trying to help Emma. He asked why I kept turning everyone into villains. That night, I made a decision. If no one would believe me, I would find the proof myself. 4. What the camera captured. I bought tiny hidden cameras without telling Kevin. I hid one inside the living room clock, one in the eyes of Emma's stuffed animal, and one under the kitchen table. All connected to my phone so I could watch in real time. For several days, nothing unusual happened. I started to wonder if I really was losing my mind. Then one afternoon, I went to the grocery store. I was gone for about an hour. When I got home, I checked the footage. I threw up on the spot. The woman on the screen was not the Linda I knew. Her face was twisted. The elegance was gone. In its place was something monstrous. She had Emma by the hair. My daughter wasn't even crying, she was too terrified to make a sound. Linda forced Emma's mouth open. She poured black liquid down her throat. When Emma tried to cough it up, Linda pinched her nose shut. Swallow or suffocate. I paused the video, closed my eyes, and told myself it was a nightmare. It had to be. But the footage was real. On the screen, Linda was whispering to Emma. She said Mommy was going to go crazy soon and be sent away. She said she would become Emma's new mommy. Then it got worse. Barbara walked into the kitchen. She started talking to Linda. Barbara asked when they could send me to a psychiatric facility. She complained that Kevin was dragging his feet, still hesitating. Linda laughed and told her not to worry. She said she had already been putting something in Kevin's drinks. Soon he would do whatever she told him. And I would start having hallucinations any day now. The two of them laughed out loud, right in front of Emma. Linda pulled out a syringe. She injected something into Emma's milk carton. Her hands were steady, practiced. She had done this many times before. I stopped the video and collapsed to the floor. The woman I thought was an angel had been poisoning my child. My own mother-in-law was conspiring to destroy me. But this wasn't enough. I needed to know why. I needed to uncover everything. 5. The devil's true face. I hired a private investigator. I asked him to dig up everything on Linda. Her real name, her past, any criminal history. A few days later, he handed me a thick envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. The first page told me everything. Linda's real name was Linda Marsh. But years ago, she had gone by a different name. She had a record. 10 years ago, in another state. She was investigated for slowly poisoning her own daughter to death. The case was dropped due to insufficient evidence. She changed her name and moved away. Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I had never heard of it before. The investigator explained. People with this disorder deliberately make someone else sick, usually their own children. Or someone in their care. Then they play the devoted caregiver to get attention and sympathy. That was exactly what Linda had been doing. Poisoning Emma, then swooping in as the caring neighbor. Who helped with the sick child. Earning Barbara's trust. Winning Kevin's admiration. Weaseling her way into our lives. But that wasn't all. The investigator found the connection between Linda and Barbara. Years ago, Barbara had run an illegal payday loan operation. She had lent money to Linda, who couldn't pay it back. The debt grew and grew, and Linda was completely in Barbara's power. But at some point, the tables turned. Linda got her hands on evidence of Barbara's illegal business. And she started blackmailing her. Their relationship had shifted from debtor and creditor to co-conspirators. Linda proposed a deal. She would forgive the debt. In return, Barbara would help drive me out of the family. They would take my inheritance and Emma. My parents had passed away when I was young. They left me everything: property, savings, shares in the family business. It added up to over $2 million. Linda had been targeting that money from the very beginning. Her plan was to have me committed, declared mentally incompetent, and stripped of my assets. Then she would take Emma and raise her. As a replacement for the daughter she had killed. Everything had been calculated. The umbrella in the rain. The homemade cookies. The kindness. All of it was bait. 6. Playing the Madwoman. I started putting on an act. I gave them exactly what they wanted: a daughter-in-law slowly losing her mind. I screamed at nothing. I muttered to myself. I wandered around the house crying in the middle of the night. Kevin looked concerned, but I saw the relief in his eyes. Finally, his wife was breaking down. Soon it would all be over. Barbara and Linda whispered to each other constantly. They said it was almost time. Soon they could have me committed. Linda grew bolder around me. She held Emma and stroked her cheek, murmuring that she would be Emma's new mommy soon. I stared blankly and nodded like I hadn't understood a word. Inside, I was boiling with rage. Every night, I worked on my plan. I organized the camera footage. I made copies of everything the investigator had found. I sent a sample of the liquid Linda gave Emma to a lab for analysis. The results were horrifying: powerful sedatives mixed with hallucinogens. The kind of drugs that could destroy a child's developing brain. I picked my moment. Barbara's 70th birthday party. 7. The trap is set. Barbara had been planning her 70th birthday for months. She had always cared more about appearances than anything else. She was a deacon at her church, respected in the community, admired by relatives. No one could imagine that she was involved in loan sharking, or that she was conspiring to have her own daughter-in-law institutionalized. Over 100 guests were invited. Family members, church friends, neighbors, everyone Barbara had ever wanted to impress. The party was booked at the biggest banquet hall in town. She told me to attend. She probably wanted to show everyone her crazy daughter-in-law, the one who would soon be put away. I smiled and said yes. I told Kevin I wanted to prepare a special tribute video, a surprise for his mother. He was thrilled. He thought I had finally come to my senses. Kevin knew nothing about video editing, but I did. I had taken a course years ago. I never imagined I would use it like this. Every night, I edited the footage. Linda forcing drugs down Emma's throat. Barbara and Linda discussing their plan. Linda injecting something into Emma's milk. I arranged everything in order and added subtitles, so no one could misunderstand. Then I posted anonymously on community forums and social media groups. I even sent the link to Barbara's church page. On the night of Barbara's 70th birthday, at 7 p.m. sharp, a shocking truth would be revealed. The day of the party arrived. 8. Judgment Night. The banquet hall was magnificent. Red roses on every table. Crystal chandeliers. Guests in suits and gowns raising champagne glasses. Barbara sat at the head table in a stunning gold dress, accepting compliments like a queen. Linda was there too, in an elegant blue dress and pearls. She sat beside Barbara, arm in arm, like the loving daughter. At 7 o'clock, Kevin took the microphone. He announced that I had prepared a special video tribute for his mother. The giant screen lit up. Barbara and Linda smiled with anticipation. They must have thought their broken daughter-in-law had finally learned her place. The video started. The first few seconds looked like a normal birthday montage: old photos, family vacations, happy memories. Then the screen changed. Security camera footage. Our living room. Linda gripping Emma by the hair, forcing black liquid into her mouth. The room went silent. Then came the audio. Barbara's voice echoing through the speakers, asking when they could send me to a mental hospital, calculating how to split the insurance money. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People's faces twisted in horror. Barbara jumped up and screamed to turn it off. Linda rushed toward the screen, but it was too late. The video continued. The investigator's documents appeared on screen. Linda's criminal history, the old news reports, Barbara's loan sharking records. I walked to the podium and picked up a microphone. I told the guests that what they had just seen was the true face of my mother-in-law and her friend next door. I told them these women had tried to destroy me, steal my money, and take my child. Barbara screamed that it was all fake, that I was a lunatic, trying to frame them, but the voice in the video was undeniably hers. No one could deny it. At that moment, the doors burst open. Police officers streamed into the room. I had contacted them in advance. I had submitted all the evidence, the footage, the lab results, the investigators' files. They were there to make arrests. Linda was taken into custody for child abuse, poisoning, and attempted murder. Barbara was arrested as her accomplice. I watched them being led away in handcuffs. I whispered under my breath, "Happy birthday, Mother. I hope you enjoyed your gift." 9. The husband's fall. After the police took Linda and Barbara away, Kevin came to me. His face was white as a sheet. He fell to his knees and grabbed my legs. He said he was sorry. He said he had been blind. He begged me to forgive him. I looked down at him. My eyes were cold. I told him he was not a bystander. He was an accomplice. Kevin had been meeting Linda. Secretly, going to her house for tea and conversation. He had complained to her about me. He had talked about how difficult and paranoid his wife had become. Linda had been giving him drinks laced with drugs. Substances that weakened his willpower and clouded his judgment. He became her puppet without even realizing it. But none of that excused what he did. Kevin knew there was a chance I might be committed to a psychiatric hospital against my will. And under pressure from his mother, he had signed the consent form. His own signature on a document that would have locked me away. I gave that form to the police as evidence of conspiracy. I told Kevin that he was no longer Emma's father. He was just a criminal waiting to be processed. A few days later, Kevin was fired. Word got out that he had been complicit in a scheme to have his wife institutionalized and his child abused. His reputation was destroyed. The divorce was swift and decisive. I took everything: alimony, property division, his retirement savings. I showed no mercy. Kevin was left with nothing. One night, he showed up at my new apartment. It was raining. He knelt at my gate for 3 days and 3 nights, begging. I never opened the door. On the 3rd night, I spoke to him through the intercom. I let him hear Emma's voice. My daughter said she didn't know who he was. She said her daddy was dead. Kevin collapsed on the spot. I had erased him from Emma's life. From her memory. From her world. That was the worst punishment I could give him. A father who failed to protect his child deserves to lose that child forever. 10. The End of Linda Marsh. Linda stood trial. The charges were child abuse, aggravated assault, illegal administration of controlled substances, and attempted murder. The doctors testified that if Emma had been given just a little more of that drug, she might have died. In court, Linda kept up her act. She pretended to be confused, disoriented, pitiful. She wept and wailed about being an innocent old woman. But I was ready. I had obtained a psychiatric evaluation proving she was mentally competent. When I submitted it to the judge, her performance crumbled. The prosecution also introduced her past: the investigation 10 years ago, the death of her own daughter, the pattern of behavior. The verdict came down: 20 years in prison. As the guards led her away, she glared at me, pure venom in her eyes. I walked up to her. I whispered in her ear. I told her that I had given the police everything from 10 years ago too. I told her she would spend the rest of her life in a cell, haunted by her daughter's ghost. The monster was sent back to hell where she belonged. Barbara was also convicted as an accomplice. 7 years in prison. The reputation she had spent a lifetime building was obliterated. Her church expelled her. Her relatives disowned her. I heard she screams in her sleep every night, crying out the name of the daughter-in-law she tried to destroy. 11. Emma's confession. Long after it was all over, Emma told me something. We were lying in bed one night. I was reading her a story. She suddenly grabbed my hand. She said she was sorry. She said she had been a bad girl. I was startled. I asked her what she meant. She told me that whenever Linda made her take the medicine, Linda warned her not to tell Mommy. Linda said if Emma told me, I would die. So Emma kept quiet because she was scared. My heart broke. My 5-year-old daughter had carried that terror alone. She swallowed the poison that made her head hurt and gave her nightmares. Believing that silence was the only way to keep her mother alive. I held her tight. I told her she was not a bad girl. I told her none of it was her fault. I told her Linda was the bad one. Then Emma said something else. She said that whenever Linda said mean things about me, she told herself it wasn't true. She reminded herself that her mommy was kind. Because I kissed her every day, hugged her every night, and always told her I loved her. I cried again. No matter how much poison Linda poured into Emma's ears, my love was stronger. The little kisses at bedtime, the hugs in the morning, the whispered I love you, those small things had protected my daughter's heart. I learned something that night. Telling your children you love them matters more than you can ever imagine. 12. A new beginning. After everything was over, Emma and I started a new life. We left the city and moved to a quiet little town in the countryside. Mountains on one side, a river on the other. Peace and quiet. I opened a small cafe there. Emma named it. She wanted to call it Mom and Me. I laughed and said that was a bit on the nose. She shook her head and said it was perfect because it was just the two of us now. And we were going to be happy. I cried when she said that. Emma is healing. She still has nightmares sometimes, but they're getting less frequent. She sees a therapist regularly and has made friends at school. Her laughter has returned. I don't trust people easily anymore. Especially people who seem too kind, too perfect, too eager to help. I learned the hard way that free kindness often comes with a hidden price. Sometimes I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what would have happened if I had given up. What if I had believed my husband and my mother-in-law? What if I had convinced myself that I really was losing my mind? I would probably be locked in a psychiatric ward right now. Emma would be in Linda's hands, another victim. My inheritance would be gone. But I didn't give up. Even when no one believed me, I kept fighting. I gathered evidence. I made a plan. I waited for the right moment. And I won. That is the power of a mother. A mother fighting for her child is stronger than anything. 13. What I want to tell you. If you've listened to my story this far, I want to ask you one thing. Take another look at your neighbors. If someone is too kind, too helpful, too eager to be part of your life, ask yourself why. Wonder what might be hiding behind that smile. Especially if you have children. If your child suddenly changes, becomes withdrawn, loses appetite, fears a certain person, don't ignore it. Children can't always put their feelings into words, but they show you through their behavior. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Even if your husband says you're being paranoid. Even if your mother-in-law says you're crazy. Even if everyone around you thinks you're overreacting. Your gut is usually right. I doubted myself at first. Kevin and Barbara told me I was imagining things. I almost believed them. I almost let it go. But a mother's instincts don't lie. You are the only one who can protect your family. Not the police. Not the government. Not your neighbors. You. If you're going through something hard right now, please don't give up. Keep fighting. There is always a way. I'm still running my little cafe. Emma is in 2nd grade now, doing well in school. We are happy. It's a simple happiness. An ordinary life. But it's everything I fought for. This morning, before she left for school, Emma kissed me on the cheek. She said she loved me. She told me to have a good day. I kissed her back. I told her I loved her too. I told her to have fun at school. This is happiness. Simple and precious. And I will protect it. No matter what. Thank you for listening to my story. Take care of yourselves.